Sophia had woken up that morning to the sound of her mother coughing. It was a harsh, rattling sound that immediately made her heart beat faster. Her mother had been excited about today for weeks. She had been preparing for an interview at one of the most well-known companies in the city, a company led by a millionaire CEO whose reputation for success and strictness was known everywhere. Sophia had seen her mother work late nights, rehearsing answers, reading about the company, and trying to make sure everything was perfect. But now, with her mother sick in bed, all of that preparation seemed useless. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, watching her mother struggle to breathe, and felt a sudden rush of determination. She couldn't let her mother miss this opportunity. Not after all the hard work. Her mother looked at her, her eyes filled with worry and apology, and Sophia shook her head. She didn't care about being nervous herself. Today, she would be the one to step in. The morning passed quickly. Sophia helped her mother with tea, made sure she took some medicine, and dressed in her own simple clothes, the ones she thought would look presentable but not overly formal. She had never imagined she would ever walk into a corporate office like this, especially for someone as important as the CEO she had only ever seen in magazines and news articles. She held the invitation tightly in her hands, the company's name glowing boldly on the paper, and tried to steady her racing heart. When they arrived at the office, the building seemed much taller and more intimidating in person than it had in the photos her mother showed her. The glass doors reflected the sunlight, and the polished floors inside shone like mirrors. Sophia could feel her palms getting sweaty as she stepped closer. The receptionist behind the desk looked up and raised her eyebrows, clearly surprised to see such a young girl standing there with an adult seriousness in her eyes. Sophia explained quickly, but politely, that her mother was sick and could not attend the interview. She held out the invitation and her mother's ID, hoping that would be enough to convince the staff. The receptionist hesitated for a moment, probably wondering if this was a joke or a mistake. But seeing the determination on Sophia's face, she decided to call upstairs. Sophia could hear her own heart pounding as she waited. Every second felt longer than the last. Finally, the receptionist nodded and gestured for Sophia to come in. As she walked through the doors into the main office area, Sophia's eyes widened. The walls were lined with expensive art. The furniture was sleek and modern, and the lighting made everything look bright and alive. People in suits and dresses walked quickly past her, focused on their work, while she felt a mix of awe and nervousness. She was guided to a waiting room, where she sat quietly, trying to calm her nerves. She clutched her notebook, the one she had quickly written some key points on after hearing her mother practice the night before. Even though she knew she couldn't answer all the questions a professional adult would, she wanted to show that she understood enough to represent her mother well. Her fingers traced the edges of the notebook as she rehearsed what she might say. After a few minutes that felt like hours, the assistant finally appeared and said it was time. Sophia's stomach twisted, but she stood up and followed the assistant down a long hallway. They stopped in front of a large office with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The assistant knocked lightly and opened the door, gesturing for Sophia to enter. Inside, the room was even more impressive than the hallway. The CEO sat behind a large desk, impeccably dressed, with an air of authority that made Sophia feel tiny. He looked up from his paperwork and paused, blinking in surprise. His eyes widened slightly when he saw a little girl standing in the doorway, her hands holding her mother's papers tightly. For a moment he said nothing, probably trying to figure out if this was some sort of joke. Sophia took a deep breath and spoke clearly, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. She explained that her mother was sick and could not make it, but she had come to represent her. She handed over the papers and tried to meet his gaze, showing as much confidence as she could muster. The CEO leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. There was a pause, long enough for Sophia to feel her throat dry and her hands shake. Then something unexpected happened. The CEO smiled, a small but genuine smile that caught Sophia off guard. He asked her a few simple questions, more curious than formal. Who was her mother, why she was here, and how she knew about the company? Sophia answered honestly, speaking about how her mother had prepared for this interview and how important it was for her family. She admitted she didn't know all the professional answers, but she wanted to try and help. As she spoke, the CEO's expression changed. The initial surprise and amusement slowly turned into interest. He noticed the way she explained things, the clarity in her thoughts, and the way she handled herself despite being so young. Sophia didn't realize it, but she was slowly gaining his respect. After a few more minutes, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. He asked her a simple scenario, something related to the company's work but framed in a way a child could understand. Sophia paused, thought carefully, and gave her answer. It wasn't perfect, but it was thoughtful, showing creativity and problem-solving skills. The CEO nodded slowly, as if impressed by her quick thinking. Sophia could feel a small spark of confidence ignite inside her. The room didn't feel as intimidating anymore. She was beginning to see that her courage and honesty mattered more than her age. The CEO's questions continued, and she answered as best as she could, sometimes hesitating, sometimes surprising herself with what she knew. Every time she answered, she could see the CEO's eyebrows rise slightly, a sign that she was keeping his attention. Finally, the CEO leaned back in his chair and smiled again, a wider smile this time. He spoke softly, telling her she had done better than he expected. Sophia felt a rush of relief and pride. Even though she knew she couldn't replace her mother completely, she had managed to step into a world that seemed impossible just an hour ago. The CEO thanked her for coming and promised to speak with her mother as soon as possible. He told her that her bravery and honesty had impressed him, and that he would make sure her mother had another opportunity for the interview. Sophia left the office feeling lighter, her steps more confident as she walked down the hallway. The receptionist smiled at her as she passed, clearly recognizing the courage it took to do what she had done. When Sophia finally returned home, her mother was sitting up, feeling a little better. Sophia told her everything, from walking into the office to speaking with the CEO and impressing him with her honesty and poise. Her mother listened, tears forming in her eyes, proud of the little girl who had stepped in without hesitation. That night, Sophia sat by her mother's bedside, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. She realized that sometimes life presents unexpected challenges, and it's the courage to face them that matters most. She had faced a world she had never imagined, and she had not only survived it but made an impact. It was a day she would never forget, the day she proved that even in unexpected circumstances, strength and determination could shine through, no matter the age. As she drifted to sleep, Sophia felt a quiet excitement about what the future might hold. She didn't know what would happen next, but she had learned something important. Stepping up when needed, even when scared, could open doors she had never dreamed of. And she knew deep down that this was only the beginning of something special for her and her mother. The next morning, Sophia woke up with a sense of anticipation. The events of the previous day were still fresh in her mind. She remembered the wide-eyed stare of the CEO, the questions, and the small smiles of approval she had received. Her mother, now feeling better, smiled at her as she ate breakfast. There was a sense of pride mixed with amazement in her mother's eyes, as if she couldn't believe what her daughter had accomplished. Sophia knew that the day ahead would be important. The CEO had promised to follow up and even asked to see her mother when she was feeling well. But Sophia had a feeling that something more was happening. She had noticed the way he looked at her yesterday, a mixture of curiosity and interest. It was clear that he had been genuinely impressed, and Sophia wondered what might come next. Her mother insisted on helping her dress neatly for the day. They chose a simple outfit that was both professional and comfortable, something that would be appropriate if she were to meet anyone else at the company. Sophia felt nervous again, but her mother held her hand and reminded her that she had already done something brave and remarkable yesterday. That encouragement filled Sophia with determination and calm. When they arrived at the office, the receptionist greeted them warmly. She seemed genuinely happy to see Sophia again. The receptionist led them to a smaller conference room instead of the main office this time. Sophia felt a little more comfortable here. The room was less intimidating, but it still had the sleek, polished look of a high-profile company. The sunlight streamed through the large windows, highlighting the neat furniture and the well-organized space. The CEO entered the room shortly after, his expression serious, but not unkind. Sophia noticed how confident and calm he seemed, and yet there was something almost childlike in the way his eyes lit up when he saw her. He greeted them politely and shook their hands. He asked Sophia to sit at the table, and she did, feeling the smooth surface under her palms. He began by asking her mother some questions, standard ones about her experience and skills. Sophia listened quietly, taking in every word. Her mother answered confidently, But Sophia noticed the CEO's attention kept drifting toward her. There was a certain expectation in his gaze, almost as if he was watching to see how Sophia would react during this interaction. After the formal questions were done, the CEO turned his full attention to Sophia. He asked her how she felt about stepping in for her mother yesterday and what she had learned from the experience. Sophia took a deep breath, recalling every detail of the previous day. She spoke about her nervousness, the fear of letting her mother down, and the pride she felt when she managed to answer the questions thoughtfully. Her words were simple, but they carried sincerity and depth. The CEO listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. He seemed impressed not just by her bravery, but by the way she reflected on her actions. He asked her what she thought about the company, the work they did, and whether she had any ideas or suggestions. Sophia hesitated for a moment, unsure if her ideas would be taken seriously. Then she spoke about a small project she had noticed her mother working on the night before, suggesting ways to organize the work more efficiently. She explained her thoughts clearly, using simple language, and the CEO's eyes widened slightly. He leaned back in his chair, smiling. He asked her more questions, not about business directly, but about problem-solving, creativity, and understanding people. Sophia answered with examples from her own life, how she helped her mother with tasks at home, how she organized her schoolwork, and how she tried to solve small problems among her friends. Each answer seemed to interest the CEO more, and Sophia could see him making notes on a tablet. After a while, the CEO stood up and asked Sophia to follow him to another part of the office. He led her down a series of hallways to a room that was even more impressive than the first. It was filled with whiteboards, charts, and a few desks with computers. He explained that this was where some of the company's important planning happened, and asked Sophia if she wanted to try a small task. Sophia's eyes lit up with excitement and nervousness. She nodded eagerly. The CEO handed her a simple problem to solve, something related to organizing a small project. Sophia thought carefully, wrote down her ideas, and explained her plan. She made sure to show clarity, organization, and creativity just like her mother had taught her. The CEO listened, asked a few questions, and nodded with approval. He explained how her approach was thoughtful and practical, showing that even a young mind could offer valuable perspectives. After finishing the task, Sophia and her mother sat together while the CEO spoke to them. He praised Sophia for her bravery and intelligence, saying he was impressed by her curiosity and insight. He mentioned that he could see she had learned much from her mother, and that she had potential that was rare to find, even in adults with years of experience. The conversation shifted to the future. The CEO offered to mentor Sophia in small ways, encouraging her to keep learning and exploring her abilities. He explained that talent and determination could come at any age and that what she had shown yesterday and today was remarkable. Sophia listened carefully, feeling a mix of pride, excitement, and gratitude. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, proud of the daughter who had handled a situation many adults would have found intimidating. Before leaving, the CEO gave Sophia a small notebook and pen, encouraging her to write down ideas whenever she thought of something creative or practical. He said that even big projects started with small ideas, and that the ability to think clearly and organize thoughts was incredibly valuable. Sophia held the notebook tightly, feeling a sense of responsibility and inspiration. As they walked out of the building, Sophia and her mother talked about the day. Her mother hugged her tightly, saying she couldn't believe how well she had done. Sophia smiled, feeling proud but also aware that this was just the beginning of a journey. She had stepped into a world she didn't fully understand, faced it bravely, and learned more about herself and what she could accomplish. That evening, Sophia sat at her desk at home, opening the notebook the CEO had given her. She began writing down ideas, small observations, and notes about problem solving. She realized that the world could be intimidating, but with courage, honesty, and thoughtfulness, she could navigate challenges and even impress people she had once thought unreachable. Sophia also reflected on her mother's strength. She realized that much of what she had done came from lessons learned at home, watching her mother work, observing her dedication, and understanding the importance of perseverance. It made her respect her mother even more and feel grateful for the guidance she had received without even realizing it. As the night grew quiet, Sophia closed the notebook and looked out of her window at the city lights. She felt a sense of possibility, knowing that what she had done yesterday and today was more than just a simple act of helping her mother. It had opened a door to new experiences, mentorship, and learning. She knew challenges would continue, but she felt ready, armed with confidence, courage, and the belief that even unexpected situations could lead to amazing opportunities. Sophia's heart was full of anticipation for the days ahead. She understood that life had a way of surprising people, and sometimes stepping into a situation with honesty, bravery, and determination could make a difference not just for oneself, but for those around you. She felt proud, inspired, and excited about the journey that had only just begun, ready to face whatever came next with courage and an open mind. The next few days were filled with excitement and new experiences for Sophia. After her meeting with the CEO, she felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She woke up each morning thinking about the projects, ideas, and tasks the CEO had encouraged her to explore. Her mother, now fully recovered, continued to support her, proud of how her daughter had handled the unexpected situation at the office. Sophia's school days were different too. She found herself more focused, more attentive, and even more confident when speaking with her teachers and classmates. She couldn't help but share small stories about her experience at the office, though she kept the details professional and respectful. Her friends were amazed by her bravery, asking her questions about how she had managed to stay calm and composed in such a high-pressure situation. At home, Sophia spent her afternoons working on small projects. She would write down ideas in the notebook the CEO had given her, sometimes sketching diagrams, other times making lists of steps to solve a problem. She tried to think like someone in the business world, applying lessons from her mother's work and from the CEO's guidance. It was challenging, but she enjoyed the process. Every time she solved a problem, no matter how small, she felt a spark of accomplishment. One afternoon, Sophia received a phone call from the company. The CEO wanted to meet with her again, this time to introduce her to some of the team members who worked on projects her mother had been involved in. Sophia's heart raced with excitement as she prepared for the meeting. She dressed neatly, rehearsed some of her ideas, and made sure to bring her notebook filled with notes and observations. When she arrived at the office, the receptionist greeted her warmly and led her to a meeting room where a few team members were waiting. They were professional adults, dressed in business attire, and they looked surprised to see a young girl entering the room. Sophia took a deep breath, reminded herself of the CEO's encouragement, and walked in confidently. The CEO introduced Sophia to the team, explaining how she had stepped in for her mother and impressed him with her problem-solving skills and maturity. The team members looked at her with a mixture of surprise and admiration. One of them smiled and asked Sophia if she wanted to share her ideas for a small project they had been working on. Sophia nodded eagerly and explained her thoughts clearly, using simple language and examples from her observations at home and at school. The team listened carefully, asking questions to understand her reasoning. Sophia responded thoughtfully, sometimes pausing to think before speaking. It was clear that she was not only brave but also intelligent and capable of analyzing problems. The CEO watched silently from the side, nodding with approval. Sophia could feel his pride and encouragement, which gave her even more confidence. After the discussion, the CEO pulled Sophia aside and spoke to her privately. He praised her for her ability to think critically and creatively, reminding her that age was never a barrier to talent. He encouraged her to continue learning and exploring new ideas, saying that the world was full of opportunities for those who were willing to take initiative and face challenges with honesty and determination. Sophia returned home that evening, her mind buzzing with excitement and ideas. She shared every detail with her mother, who listened with pride and amazement. They spent time together discussing how Sophia could continue to develop her skills, and her mother offered guidance while allowing Sophia to explore her own path. It was a partnership built on trust, love, and mutual respect. Over the next few weeks, Sophia became more involved in the company in small ways. She was invited to observe team meetings, provide input on minor projects, and even suggest improvements. The CEO occasionally checked in with her personally, offering advice, encouragement, and challenges that helped her grow. Each day, Sophia learned something new, whether it was about organization, communication, or problem solving. At home, Sophia's confidence continued to grow. She began to approach school projects with the same enthusiasm and attention to detail she had learned from her experiences at the company. Her classmates noticed her new level of focus and maturity, and even her teachers commented on how she had become more responsible and insightful. Sophia felt proud of her growth, realizing that her courage and determination were making a difference in many areas of her life. One afternoon, the CEO invited Sophia and her mother to a special company event. It was a small gathering with some of the key employees and stakeholders. Sophia was nervous but excited. She dressed neatly and made sure to have her notebook ready. The event was filled with conversations about projects, ideas, and the company's goals. Sophia observed carefully, learning how adults discussed business matters, and occasionally offering small, thoughtful suggestions when appropriate. The CEO introduced Sophia to several important people at the event, explaining her role in stepping in for her mother and her impressive contributions. Many of the attendees were surprised and impressed by her confidence and poise. Sophia realized that her actions had not only made an impact on the CEO, but also on others in the professional world. She felt a sense of pride and responsibility, knowing that her behavior reflected both her mother and herself. After the event, Sophia and her mother walked home, discussing everything they had experienced. Her mother expressed her gratitude and amazement at Sophia's courage, while Sophia reflected on how much she had learned. She understood that stepping into unfamiliar situations could be challenging, but it also provided opportunities for growth and recognition. She felt inspired to continue learning and contributing, knowing that her efforts were valued and appreciated. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia continued to balance school, home life, and her involvement with the company. She became more confident in her abilities, more creative in her thinking, and more determined to make a difference. Her mother remained a guiding presence, offering advice and support, while allowing Sophia to take initiative and explore her potential. Sophia's journey was not without challenges. There were moments of doubt, fear, and hesitation, but each time she faced a new situation, she remembered the CEO's encouragement and the lessons she had learned from her mother. She realized that bravery was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Her confidence grew, and she began to see herself not just as a helper for her mother, but as a capable individual with her own ideas, insights, and contributions. One evening, Sophia sat by the window reflecting on her experiences. She thought about the CEO, the team members, and the lessons she had learned. She felt grateful for the opportunity to step into a world she had never imagined and to discover her own potential. She opened her notebook and began jotting down ideas, plans, and reflections, knowing that each note was a step toward growth and learning. Sophia's life had changed in ways she had never expected. What had started as a simple act of helping her mother had turned into a journey of discovery, learning, and confidence. She realized that sometimes, life presents challenges in unexpected forms, and it is the courage to face them that shapes the future. Sophia felt ready for whatever came next, knowing that her determination, honesty, and willingness to learn would guide her through the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The days following Sophia's initial meetings with the CEO were filled with a mixture of excitement and learning. She felt a growing sense of responsibility and pride in the small but meaningful contributions she was able to make. Each time she returned to the office, she noticed small details she hadn't before. The way employees collaborated, how problems were broken down into manageable steps, and how patience and listening were as important as intelligence in finding solutions. One morning, the CEO called Sophia to his office for a private discussion. She arrived early, her hands clutching the notebook he had given her. The office seemed calm that day, with sunlight streaming through the windows and highlighting the elegant simplicity of the room. Sophia's heart beat fast as she walked in, but she reminded herself of all the encouragement she had received and tried to stay calm. The CEO smiled as she entered. He began by asking Sophia about her experiences so far, what she had learned, what had challenged her, and what she enjoyed most. Sophia spoke honestly, describing how she had observed teamwork, problem-solving, and organization in action. She explained that she had been writing ideas and reflections in her notebook every day, practicing small exercises to improve her thinking and planning. The CEO listened carefully, occasionally nodding and asking questions that made Sophia think even deeper. He then presented her with a new task, one slightly more complex than before. It involved understanding a small project her mother had been working on and suggesting ways to improve efficiency and communication within the team. Sophia felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She had been learning step by step, but this was her first chance to provide input on something meaningful. She opened her notebook and began jotting down her thoughts, carefully organizing her ideas before sharing them. Sophia explained her suggestions clearly, using simple language and examples to make her points understandable. She talked about organizing tasks by priority, creating a schedule for the team to follow, and making sure everyone had clear communication channels. The CEO leaned back in his chair, listening intently. He asked a few detailed questions, and Sophia responded thoughtfully, showing she had not only considered her ideas, but anticipated possible challenges and solutions. The CEO's expression shifted from curiosity to admiration. After discussing her ideas, the CEO encouraged her to take a more active role in observing and providing input for small projects. He explained that sometimes fresh perspectives, even from someone young, could reveal insights that others might overlook. Sophia felt a surge of confidence. She realized that her thoughts and suggestions were valued, and that her ability to think critically and creatively was being recognized. Over the next few days, Sophia began spending more time in the office, observing team meetings and taking notes. She asked questions, shared observations, and sometimes suggested small changes. The employees initially looked surprised at her level of involvement, but as they noticed the quality of her input, they began to respect her opinions. Sophia realized that even though she was young, her curiosity, honesty, and effort allowed her to contribute meaningfully. One afternoon, the CEO asked Sophia to attend a meeting with a few senior team members. The project they were discussing was important, and he wanted her to observe and provide feedback from a fresh perspective. Sophia felt nervous, but she remembered his words of encouragement and took a deep breath. She sat quietly, listening carefully to the discussions, taking notes, and thinking about where she could offer insights. During the meeting, a problem arose regarding communication breakdowns in the team. Sophia raised her hand hesitantly and suggested a simple solution, holding short daily check-ins to make sure everyone was aligned on tasks and responsibilities. The team looked at her in surprise, but the CEO smiled and nodded encouragingly. After a brief discussion, the team decided to try her suggestion. The meetings became more organized and communication improved, proving that her ideas had practical value. Sophia felt proud and excited. She realized that she had the ability to make a difference, even in a professional environment that was initially intimidating. The CEO praised her initiative, saying that it was rare to see someone so young demonstrate such clarity of thought and confidence. Sophia began to understand that learning and growth came from participation, observation, and the courage to share ideas, no matter how small they seemed. Back at home, Sophia and her mother discussed the day's events. Her mother expressed how proud she was, emphasizing that Sophia's actions were not only impressive but also inspiring. Sophia reflected on how much she had grown since stepping in for her mother initially. She realized that courage, honesty, and willingness to take responsibility had opened doors she never imagined possible. Sophia's confidence continued to grow. She began applying the lessons she learned at the office to her school projects and daily life. She approached challenges with careful thought, prepared notes, and creative solutions. Her teachers noticed her improved focus and leadership qualities, often praising her for her insight and initiative. Her classmates also respected her, seeing her as someone capable and thoughtful. One evening, Sophia received another call from the CEO. He wanted to meet her the following day to discuss a new project and provide further guidance on developing her skills. Sophia prepared diligently, reviewing her notes, reflecting on previous tasks, and brainstorming potential solutions. She wanted to make a good impression and show that she was committed to learning and contributing. When she arrived at the office, the CEO greeted her warmly and invited her to a private office. He began by discussing the new project, explaining its goals and challenges in a way Sophia could understand. He encouraged her to analyze the situation, think creatively, and propose solutions. Sophia listened intently, asked clarifying questions, and then began outlining her thoughts. She suggested ways to streamline processes, improve team collaboration, and enhance efficiency. The CEO was impressed by her detailed and well-structured suggestions. He asked her to present her ideas to a small group of employees who were part of the project. Sophia's heart raced, but she remembered how she had handled previous situations. She took a deep breath, focused on her notes, and confidently explained her recommendations. The team listened attentively, asked questions, and incorporated some of her suggestions into their planning. Sophia felt a sense of accomplishment, realizing that her input had tangible value. After the presentation, the CEO spoke with Sophia privately again. He praised her for her courage, insight, and ability to communicate effectively. He emphasized that her contributions were meaningful, and that her perspective, though young, offered clarity and creativity that was sometimes missing in professional settings. Sophia felt proud and inspired, understanding that her dedication and willingness to step up could make a real difference. As Sophia walked home that evening with her mother, she reflected on her journey. She realized that stepping in for her mother had not only helped the family, but it also allowed her to discover her own potential. She had learned important lessons about courage, responsibility, observation, and communication. She felt grateful for the opportunity and motivated to continue growing, knowing that even small actions and honest efforts could lead to significant outcomes. That night, Sophia sat with her notebook, writing down reflections, new ideas, and plans for the future. She understood that learning was ongoing and that each experience, challenge, and observation could contribute to her growth. She felt empowered, knowing that with determination, curiosity, and honesty, she could face any challenge, learn from it, and make a meaningful impact. Sophia's journey was far from over, but she felt ready, confident, and inspired to continue discovering her potential and making a difference in her own unique way. The following weeks felt like a whirlwind of learning and discovery for Sophia. Each day brought new experiences, challenges, and lessons. Her confidence grew steadily as she realized that her ability to think critically, solve problems, and communicate clearly could make a difference, even in a professional environment that initially seemed intimidating. One morning, Sophia arrived at the office and was greeted warmly by the receptionist. The CEO had called ahead to let the team know she would be coming, and everyone seemed eager to see her again. She carried her notebook and a pen, ready to jot down any ideas or notes that might come up during the day. Sophia felt a sense of pride as she walked through the office, knowing that she was gradually becoming a part of the company in a small but meaningful way. The CEO met her in the lobby and led her to his office. He smiled and asked how she had been practicing and learning over the past few weeks. Sophia explained that she had been observing, asking questions, and writing down ideas for projects both at the company and at school. She described how she had been applying lessons learned at the office to her daily life, organizing tasks, and thinking ahead to solve problems. The CEO listened attentively, nodding and occasionally asking questions to challenge her thinking further. He then presented her with a more complex project, something that involved coordination among several teams. Sophia's heart raced as she listened to the details. It was the first time she was being asked to analyze a real company project, not just small tasks or observations. The CEO encouraged her to break it down into manageable steps, think about potential challenges, and offer recommendations. Sophia took her notebook and began sketching out a plan, carefully considering each detail and imagining how her ideas might help the team work more efficiently. Sophia worked diligently, asking clarifying questions and taking notes as she went. The CEO watched quietly, offering occasional guidance but mostly allowing her to think independently. Sophia felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. She knew that her suggestions could impact the project, but she also felt confident in her ability to contribute. She had been learning steadily, and her previous experiences had prepared her for this moment. After a few hours, Sophia presented her plan to the CEO. She explained her suggestions clearly, using simple language and practical examples. She discussed ways to improve communication among teams, organize tasks more effectively, and anticipate potential challenges. The CEO listened intently, occasionally asking questions that pushed her to think more deeply. Sophia responded thoughtfully, demonstrating both creativity and careful reasoning. The CEO smiled as she finished. He praised her for her ability to analyze complex situations, communicate ideas effectively, and think critically. He emphasized that her contributions were valuable, and that her perspective, despite her age, offered insights that were sometimes missed by adults with more experience. Sophia felt a surge of pride and confidence, realizing that her efforts were being recognized and appreciated. Later that afternoon, the CEO introduced Sophia to a few senior team members who were leading the project. He explained her role and encouraged them to consider her ideas seriously. Sophia presented her suggestions to the team, answering their questions and clarifying her reasoning. The team members were impressed by her clarity, thoughtfulness, and confidence. They implemented some of her ideas, and the CEO nodded with approval, showing that her contributions had a real impact. As Sophia walked home with her mother that evening, she reflected on the day's events. Her mother listened with pride and admiration as Sophia described the project, her suggestions, and the positive response from the CEO and the team. They talked about the importance of courage, determination, and honesty, and how these qualities could create opportunities in unexpected ways. Sophia felt grateful for the guidance her mother had provided, and for the chance to learn from someone as experienced and encouraging as the CEO. Over the next few weeks, Sophia continued to engage with the company in small but meaningful ways. She observed meetings, offered input on projects, and worked closely with her mother to understand the practical applications of her ideas. She became more confident in her abilities and more comfortable expressing her thoughts. The CEO occasionally checked in to offer feedback, encouragement, and new challenges that helped her grow. Sophia's experience began to influence her life outside the office as well. At school, she approached assignments with increased focus and creativity. She collaborated with classmates more effectively, applied problem-solving techniques she had learned at the office, and took initiative in group projects. Her teachers noticed her improved skills and maturity, and her classmates respected her for her insights and determination. One day, the CEO invited Sophia and her mother to a small company event, a gathering that included some of the key employees and stakeholders. Sophia felt nervous but excited. She dressed neatly, carried her notebook, and prepared to observe and learn from the professionals around her. The event was filled with discussions about projects, goals, and challenges. Sophia listened carefully, occasionally offering small suggestions that were met with interest and appreciation. As the event concluded, Sophia reflected on her journey. She thought about the initial moment when she had stepped in for her sick mother, nervous and unsure, and how far she had come since then. She realized that every challenge she faced, every moment of fear or doubt, had contributed to her growth and understanding. She felt grateful for the trust her mother and the CEO had placed in her, and for the opportunity to discover her own abilities. In the days that followed, Sophia continued to balance school, family, and her involvement with the company. She became more confident, more creative, and more determined to make a difference. She understood that learning was an ongoing process and that courage and honesty were key to navigating life's challenges. Sophia felt empowered, knowing that she could face any situation with determination, reflection, and a willingness to learn. One evening, Sophia sat at her desk with her notebook, writing down reflections, new ideas, and plans for the future. She thought about the CEO's guidance, her mother's support, and her own growth. She realized that what had started as a simple act of helping her mother had transformed into a journey of discovery, learning, and self-confidence. She felt inspired and ready to continue exploring her potential, knowing that every step she took, no matter how small, could lead to meaningful change. As Sophia prepared for bed, she looked out the window at the city lights, feeling a sense of possibility and excitement. She knew that challenges would continue, but she felt ready to face them with courage and honesty. She understood that life often presented unexpected opportunities, and that stepping up with determination and sincerity could create doors to experiences and learning she had never imagined. Sophia closed her notebook with a smile, feeling proud, inspired, and ready for the journey ahead, knowing that this was just the beginning of many new and exciting experiences for her and her mother. Sophia woke up that morning feeling a mix of excitement and curiosity. Over the past few weeks, her life had shifted in ways she had never imagined. What began as stepping in for her sick mother had turned into an opportunity to explore a world she had only seen from a distance. She stretched, took a deep breath, and thought about the day ahead, wondering what new experiences awaited her. After breakfast, Sophia and her mother walked to the office together. Her mother held her hand, proud, but also feeling a little amazed at how capable her daughter had become. They arrived at the reception area, and the receptionist greeted them with a warm smile, already expecting Sophia. She felt a rush of confidence as she walked past the familiar glass doors, her notebook tucked securely under her arm. The CEO met them in the lobby and led Sophia to a conference room where a few team members were already waiting. He introduced her with enthusiasm, emphasizing how she had impressed everyone with her intelligence, honesty, and courage. Sophia nodded politely, feeling a little shy, but she reminded herself that she had already shown she could handle challenging situations. The CEO began the session by discussing a new project that involved multiple departments and required coordination and creative thinking. Sophia listened intently, jotting down notes in her notebook. She asked questions when she needed clarification and offered small suggestions when appropriate. Each time she spoke, the adults around her listened carefully, respecting her observations and insights. Sophia felt a growing sense of pride and purpose. As the discussion continued, a problem arose that had stumped the team for a few days. Communication between departments was breaking down, and progress was slow. Sophia hesitated for a moment, but decided to share an idea she had been thinking about for organizing tasks and improving clarity. She suggested a simple visual schedule that could be shared with everyone, helping them see their responsibilities and deadlines at a glance. The CEO looked at her thoughtfully, and the team members murmured their approval. They agreed to try her suggestion, and within minutes the mood in the room changed. People were smiling, exchanging ideas more easily and working with renewed focus. Sophia's heart swelled with pride. She realized that even a small idea, expressed clearly and thoughtfully, could have a significant impact. After the meeting, the CEO pulled Sophia aside. He praised her for her initiative, reminding her that problem-solving often came from fresh perspectives and the courage to speak up. He encouraged her to continue observing, asking questions, and offering her thoughts whenever she felt confident. Sophia felt inspired, understanding that her role, though unusual for someone her age, was meaningful and valued. Over the next few days, Sophia continued to contribute in small but important ways. She worked closely with her mother on tasks she could understand, learned about organizational strategies, and even helped prepare simple presentations for the team. Each experience taught her something new, not just about business, but about communication, responsibility, and teamwork. One afternoon, the CEO invited Sophia to sit in on a high-level meeting with department heads. She felt nervous but determined to stay composed. The meeting was intense, filled with discussions about timelines, budgets, and project goals. Sophia listened carefully, jotting down notes and observing how adults collaborated, resolved conflicts, and made decisions. Occasionally, she raised thoughtful questions or offered small suggestions that reflected her growing understanding. The adults were impressed by her attentiveness and insight. The CEO smiled at her quietly, signaling his approval. Sophia felt a surge of confidence. She realized that learning was not just about knowledge, but about observing, thinking critically, and communicating clearly. Each question she asked and each idea she shared was helping her grow and making a difference in the team's work. Back at home, Sophia and her mother discussed the events of the day. Her mother was proud, expressing amazement at how much her daughter had learned in such a short time. Sophia felt grateful for her mother's guidance and encouragement, understanding that the lessons she had learned at home were just as important as the experiences at the office. They talked about responsibility, courage, and the value of offering ideas, no matter how small they seemed. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the office with renewed determination. She had spent time reflecting on her contributions and thinking of new ways to help the team. The CEO greeted her warmly and invited her to participate in a brainstorming session with a group of employees working on a creative project. Sophia listened carefully as ideas were shared, and when it was her turn, she offered suggestions that were practical and innovative. The team considered her input seriously, and some of her ideas were incorporated into the project plan. After the session, the CEO spoke privately with Sophia. He praised her creativity, analytical thinking, and courage to contribute. He reminded her that success often came from persistence, curiosity, and the willingness to take initiative. Sophia felt inspired by his words and motivated to continue developing her skills and confidence. Over the following weeks, Sophia's involvement with the company grew gradually. She continued to observe meetings, offer ideas, and assist her mother in understanding project details. Her notebook became a record of reflections, observations, and plans. She used it to track her progress, brainstorm solutions, and record lessons learned from her experiences at the office. Sophia's growth was also visible in her school life. She approached assignments with focus and creativity, collaborated effectively with classmates, and took initiative in group projects. Her teachers noticed her improved problem-solving skills and maturity, often praising her for her thoughtfulness and insight. Her classmates respected her, recognizing her dedication and ability to think critically. One day, the CEO asked Sophia and her mother to attend a company event, where she would have the chance to meet more employees and observe the company culture in a larger setting. Sophia felt nervous but excited. She dressed neatly and carried her notebook ready to learn and contribute. The event was lively, filled with conversations about projects, ideas, and goals. Sophia listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, and offered small suggestions when appropriate. The CEO watched with pride, recognizing her growing confidence and understanding. As the event concluded, Sophia reflected on her journey. She thought about how stepping in for her mother had changed her life, opening doors she had never imagined. She realized that courage, honesty, and determination could create opportunities in unexpected ways. She felt grateful for her mother's support, the CEO's guidance, and the chance to discover her own potential. Back at home, Sophia wrote in her notebook, capturing reflections, insights, and ideas for the future. She understood that learning was ongoing and that every experience, challenge, and observation contributed to growth. She felt empowered, knowing that her dedication, curiosity, and courage could help her face any challenge, make meaningful contributions, and continue developing her skills and confidence.